we will be working with panels. So a lot of the work that I do, I work in panels. So that means like the sleeve panel, the back panel, the 2 front panels, or the 1 panel as a sweater. So we started off with our back panel, all right, that is a chain up of 41, and then we continue our wave stitches until we reach the width of 8 to 9 inches wide, using your measuring tape. So for whatever size you're making, that's what it's going to measure to. And my 2 front panels, you can decide whichever way you want to lay your pieces. I like to lay it on the side where it's like showing my slip stitches through, so it's like showing different colors, but it doesn't really matter. So our 2 side panels, which is the exact same thing as the back panel, which is just cut in half, so we chained up 40 as well for each of the panels. And then for our sleeves, we will have a width of about 5 to 6 inches for the sleeve, and then it gets cut in half, so it should measure to about 3 inches wide once we have it all together. So that's one sleeve, and the same one for the other side, which would measure about the same, which would measure the same. So that is our sweater. That is what we have. So now we're going to go ahead and put it together. So we're going to start off with our sleeves. So before we actually start putting the sleeves together, we're going to make a cuff for the sleeve. So if our arms measure about 6 to 7 inches long, I'm just going to add probably about, I think I'm going to add probably about an inch of a cuff. So I'm just going to make it simple. I'm just going to go around it for about two, 2 inches. No, I'm sorry, 2 rows, about 2 rows. And I think my main color, I'm just going to go ahead and make gray. So I'm just going to attach it to the end. And like I said, just determine which side you want it to lay on. It doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't really matter which side. So I'm just going to start with tying my main color yarn there. Just going to attach it to the bottom. This is going to be your cuff, your sleeve. So I'm going to work with half double crochets for the cuff. And in between, I'm going to be doing a few decreases. So I'm just going to do probably about 3 decreases in between. So from the beginning, middle, and end. So I'm just going to start with, and through each one is going through each row. So you'll be able to determine once you get in that hole, but just make sure you have the same amount of stitches on this cuff that you have on your other sleeve too. So we're going to half double crochet into this, our first space right here. 1, half double crochet into that next space. 2, 3 into that next space, and then I'm going to double crochet. I want to half double crochet 2 together, so I'm just going to go into a space. You can't necessarily tell like which space is which because it doesn't look like stitches, but if you can just feel like a hole or gap and just make sure you're looking to see if it's an actual row, then that's the one you go into. So I'm just going to half double crochet 2 together, which is you're wrapping your yarn, pulling it through your stitch, you're pulling up a loop, then you're wrapping your yarn again, you're going into the next stitch, pulling up a loop, you're just going to pull through all 5 of those loops there, and that is 2 half double crochets together. So that is just me decreasing. So I'm just going to continue with another 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3 into there, and then I'm going to decrease once more right there, and then I'm just going to continue with my half double crochets until I reach the end. So you also want to count your stitches again, just to make sure you have the same amount of stitches on one sleeve that you have on the other. So I'll go ahead and count how many stitches I have afterwards. So before I reach my end, I'm just going to add another decrease into this cuff here with decrease half double crochet. And then I'm just going to go in with 2 remaining half double crochets in the last 2 rows. So this is what you have. So it's just going to give you a little cuff down there when you decrease it. So when you do your next row, you'll see the difference. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work and go in with another row of half double crochets there. And I'm not going to decrease anymore. I'm just going to leave it as is. So just go over those decreases. All right, and there we have a cuff. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want it to be too long. And if you feel like you want your cuff to be a little more, cinched in, then you can decrease a little bit more. I wouldn't suggest too much because we still just want to leave some room, for the hands to get through. So that's a pretty good hole. Again, this is a newborn size. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're not going to cut it off just yet because we're going to go ahead. Okay, so whatever side that you're going to use, just determine whatever side you're going to use and flip it over on the reverse side of that. So since I'm going to use this side for my cuff, I'm going to go ahead and turn it pretty much inside out. And then I'm going to stitch it up. So we're just going to go ahead and actually take out my hook and just start it from the beginning of the row here and just grab my yarn and start it from there. And I'm just going to be single crocheting in each space. So there are stitches once you reach here, but in the beginning it's the first row. So we're just going to attach these from the previous rows from the wave stitch before we attached our gray. So we're just going to go right into here into the first 2 stitches. Make sure they are the same stitches. Make sure you're going into the same stitches. I'm just going to slip stitch that first one, and then into the next space I'm going to grab both and just go ahead and single crochet all the way down while attaching them together. And I'm going to go ahead and single crochet into just one of these loops because it still gives it the same effect on the reverse side. But if you don't, it also does not matter as well. You still won't be able to tell, but I'm just going to go ahead and go into the back loops. It's not that uneven, right? But as long as you place your stitches in the right place, they will add up. So these are my last 2 stitches I'm attaching here. 1 and 2. Just like that. And I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. You're going to do this with both of your sleeves. So there we have the first sleeve. And let's look at it, turn it inside out, and see the outcome. And that is what the sleeve is going to look like. And then afterwards, we will attach that once we have our hole in our couple panels. So go ahead and finish up your next sleeve, and I will meet you back when we attach. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and attach our panels. So what we're going to do is, so I kind of just pretty much eyeball it because, or you can attach it before you close your sides up, either or you can semi. What I do is semi close it up until I get a guesstimate of where it should be, and then I go ahead and start to attach my sleeve. And once it levels out and evens out, then I'll go ahead and continue to close it. So to determine which side you're going to use, I'm going to use, let's see how it looks. Put your pieces on the wrong side that you don't want it on. I'm just going to attach it this way. That way it's easy for me to attach my 2. That way it's easy for me to see my stitches. Because if I'm in the first row here, our foundation chain, I'm just going to be squeezing my needle in there. So it's just easier to attach it this way. So let's go into each stitch. We're just going to attach it using the same method of single crochets. You can slip stitch if you like, but I just like the looseness of the single crochet when I'm attaching them. So just as long as you chained up 41 for the beginning of each of your panels, then you should definitely have an equal number while attaching. Oh, and I am starting from the bottom if you haven't already discovered that, of course. I have to leave a hole at the top, so don't forget to leave a hole at the top. It can be a little tricky when you're going through your slip stitches, so again, do not do your slip stitches too tight. All right, so we are reaching the top, just about the size of our armhole. Let me stitch up a few more stitches in there, and then let's go ahead and look at our sleeve and the size of our hole. So that seems about the same size. So what I would do right now is just leave a little bit of a long tail, just about that much more, just close it up. And then what I'm going to do is just chain 1 and loosely let that go and leave that like that. And then what I would do is the next side, I'm going to attach it this way on this side because I'm going to do the shoulders next. Now we're going to attach the shoulders. The shoulders you just attach at the top each panel until you reach the end of each side. And it should be equal. You should have that little bit of space in between. So I'm going to go into my first stitch at the top of the row here. I'm going to attach it this way. Okay, so we're attaching the shoulders. We're attaching the shoulders now. So I attach my yarn at the top of the row. We're going to go ahead and still single crochet by attaching. And then just chain one, start your single crochets, matching up with each of the top rows from each panel. So the back panel and side panel, we're going to do this on each side. So whatever you do on one side, you do on the other. So go into my pieces. I'm just going to stop wherever the row ends, which would be here. Actually, here I have one more stitch left, right here at the beginning. And you can go ahead and slip stitch. I just slip stitch right on over. And then I can just slip stitch on over to get to the next panel. Just a few stitches. Just loosely slip stitch over. Okay, make sure the next side is even. So this actually attaches right here to this first row on the next panel. Oh my God, it came out. All right, so let's even that out just one more time. And yes, I'm gonna go right into these two here and attach them, both of the panels, and start my single crochets of attaching. So let's take some neck glue. All right, I've reached the end of my shoulder, the top of my shoulder. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and let's just reverse my sleeve back to the reverse side, and I'm going to just attach it. I'm going to attach it this way. The grates add up just fine. So once I attach it from the top of the sleeve, I'm able to determine and match up each stitch with the row. So I'm just going to take my hook out and take it from anywhere. It doesn't matter where you start from the sleeve, because again, all you have to do is just match it right up with each stitch in each row. All right, now we have our sleeve fully attached. Hold on, I got two more stitches here. One and two, and I'm just gonna slip stitch into the first one where we started, of course. Slip stitch, chain one, actually chain two, and cut. Okay, let's go ahead and see what our sleeve looks like. Our sleeve is nicely attached. So let's tuck it inside out. Of course, your hand is not really going to fit through a newborn sweater sleeve hole, sweater hole. Again, I still have to sew that little bit of space I have on the side, but we have our sleeve attached. And mine is a little bit loose from the way I attached it, so you can slip stitch also, because I was kind of rushing through that. But as you can see, as in the other parts, it doesn't really show. Or you could use the same color yarn, and you won't be able to tell at all that it's attached. But this is what my sleeve looks like. This is what yours should look like, and I'm just gonna flip it inside out. I mean, on the right side, and this is what we have it looking like so far. So you can go ahead and attach your sleeve on the remaining side, and once I have my sleeve attached also, I will meet you back and we're going to go ahead and finish it off. All right, and so I have both of my sleeves attached and both of my side panels attached. So you can attach it whichever way is easier for you, whichever way you like. I may have made that a little bit difficult than it should have been, but you can attach your shoulders first, and then you can go ahead to attach your sleeve and your side panels, whatever which way works for you. But that is the gist of putting the side panels together. It came out absolutely adorable. I'm gonna go ahead and just do a few rounds and go around. So I'm going to go around the bottom, and then I'm going to come around here as well. So I'm going to use gray this way from the bottom. Actually, I'm just going to do half double crochets. We're going to work in half double crochets. So I'm just going to half double crochet around the bottom. And if you want it to be a bit cuffed at the bottom at the waistline, you can go ahead and make some decreases. I'm just going to decrease about 3 times around the whole bottom part because I don't want it too cuffed. So just the same thing we did with the sleeve. We're just gonna two half double crochets together for that decrease to give it that cuff look. So that's me working across that bottom. You see the Coogi, you know, Coogi like inspired look? It looks so freaking dope. So if you add some more colors in there, you know, you can get a little, you can add some texture in there. I was thinking about adding some texture. Alright, and that looks amazing. I'm gonna keep on going until I get all the way around. So fully around both panels. I'm still working at the bottom. I'll give you a view once I reach the top because we're gonna do a little bit of increases when we reach that neck part. So I'm reaching my last stitch at the corner. And what I'm going to do here is just chain one. Once I hit that corner, I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to go right into the beginning of this panel stitch here with a half double crochet. This just keeps the shape of the kind of square shape. Now you don't have to chain one. I decided to just to give it some room. It makes a difference, but it doesn't make a difference. So if you don't, it will kind of be more round than square, and that's okay. That's the way you want it. So I'm just going to half double crochet in each of these stitches. All right, so I'm going to stop when I get closer to the neckline. So for whatever you do on one side, you do on the other. So I'm just going to eyeball this right here, but you can count your stitches on the other side if you like. A little bit before I get to this neck, I am going to do 2 half double crochets in my next stitch. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. So just like right before you get there, this would be like a neckline, a collar line, which is about right there. So I'm just going to, from the neck, it's about, or from the first panel, it's about 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 stitches down. So this is my 8th stitch. I'm going to go into actually a 7th stitch from the top of the side panel. So right here. So in the next stitch, I'm going to do 2 half double crochets, and then I'm going to do 1 2 3 half double crochets in the next 3 stitches, and then I'm going to do 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, and then I'm going to do 3 more half double crochets. This is a little funny because of the way I attached that, but that's okay. 3 half double crochets, and I'm going to do another 2 half double crochets in that same stitch. and another 2 half double crochets in the next stitch right next to that. So because I went ahead and slip stitch my way over from doing the shoulder, I had you know, some good stitches to go into, so that's just what I did. So those 2 just stitches, I just did a 2 half double crochets in those stitches, and the last stitch here, exactly at the neckline, I'm going to do another 2 half double crochets. And it's not an exact number on how much I did, but I increased 1 2 3 4 about 5 times around that neckline. So I just want to give it some room, so that way even if you want to make a collar or a hood, you can do that. But when you're making a hood, you're increasing a whole lot more, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. So we're just going to continue to half double crochet and do the same thing that you did on this side. So I started from the 8th, from the 7th stitch down. So I counted down 7 stitches from the first panel. So on this side from here, I'm going to count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and I could either use a stitch, you could use the stitch marker to mark that spot. So I just pretty much increase 1 time between there. So I'm just going to do that. Actually, I think maybe twice. So just 1 2 3 half double crochets, and then I'm going to increase. I'm just going to increase it right into there, and then another 3 half double crochets. 1 2 3, and then 1 more of the 2 half double crochets in that 1 stitch. And that'll just give you some room. That just gives you some neck room. So I'm just going to continue to go around in every stitch with a half double crochet until I reach the end of my row in my panel. And I'm just going to go around this once. So once I reach the end of my panel, I will be finished. You can go around as many times as you like, but if you do go around more than once, I would suggest to make your 2 side panels just a bit smaller in width if you're going to be adding more. And that is the same for each of them. So I'm just gonna chain 2 and cut off, and then I'm just gonna tuck my little bit of yarn there on it. That is what we have, and we are finished with our Coogi Inspired sweater.